Hi, welcome to the Grand Hill Chronicles podcast, and it's me, Small Potatoes. My name is Don Bishop, and I am doing an unplanned video and releasing it out of cycle because I want to reply to something I saw. And yeah, that's why I'm not dropping no music right now. So I saw this video from Alyssa Matesic. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Who is an editor, and I'll link the video in the show notes. But the video title is "A Difficult Truth All Authors Must Prepare For," and she goes on to say, face the truth, and I agree, it's important to face the truth, and not refusing to face the truth can set you up for problems. So the truth that she's helping authors to face is the possibility that that book that you're working on may never get published. And that is a very good thing to realize the reality of the situation, and the editors and publishers go through their slush piles. They face thousands of manuscripts, and they can't possibly publish them all. But you know what? In my case, that wasn't good enough for me. So I want to talk about kind of the philosophy, I guess. So traditional publishing is the way to go for a lot of people, and I don't want to bash that in and of itself. Honestly, I'm not bashing, but I am replying and saying that there is another way. It may not be the way that suits you, but for me, I wanted my work out there, and I've read a lot of things, and I've done a lot of research, and I did not want to accept that my book might not get published. So I published it, and there's kind of a stigma still, self-publishing, but and there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that stigma, because the gatekeepers of traditional publishing, and I apologize if that term brings a negative connotation, but strictly speaking, they are gatekeepers. They have their slush pile, and they decide who they're going to take on or say no to. And what was I saying? That there's a reason that exists, because not every story is up to snuff. And even after a story has been accepted and is under contract to be published, a lot of stories still need massaging. And you're some kind of freak if you don't have anything that needs to be edited. And a lot of work goes into a manuscript once it's finished and ready to be submitted. So that there are definitely reasons that the gatekeeping system exists. Otherwise, there would be a lot of trash out there. Now, with these days, there's Kindle Direct Publishing, and you can publish a book for free. I wouldn't do it that way. I'm not saying no to Kindle Direct Publishing. I published through Kindle Direct Publishing, but I wouldn't do everything at zero cost, because, like I said, there's a reason that the gatekeeping exists. You need an editor. You need somebody else. You need somebody else to go over your manuscript, and not just your mom or your best friend or your spouse, because they're not going to be objective. And you need to find as many people who already read your genre to read your manuscript and give their feedback on it. Sorry, I'm holding myself back because I tend to information dump, and I'm about to tell you the whole process, and that's not what this is about. I'm just saying the philosophy. I did not want to accept no this time around. I have accepted no in my life, and I have avoided I don't want to use the word, but confrontations, to strip away the connotation, and you have facing up to something difficult, right? It might not be a contentious thing, but confrontations. I'll tell you a little story. When I was in 6th grade, I had homeschooled in 5th grade, and so we showed up to get me all registered and get me into classes at the beginning of 6th grade. And I wanted to play music. I wanted to play an instrument. And the school had a band program. I mean, I grew up in Texas. Of course it had a band program. And so my mom asked me what instrument would I play. And I thought that my options were limited to the instruments that we owned at home. And she played the violin. I thought it sounded beautiful. So I said I would play the violin. And she said, well, they don't do violin in the band here. And I thought she was implicitly telling me that, sorry, you can't do band. So I didn't do band that year. I was saved from non-banding because the same year, my older brother, who was in 7th grade, chose percussion, and I saw that my parents bought a bell set and a practice set. A bell set is a glockenspiel. You know, a lot of people might call it a xylophone, but xylo is wood, and this is metal. So they bought him a glockenspiel and a practice pad to drum on. And I was surprised. You know, they bought him gear to do band. Well, I continued throughout 6th grade, and I did art and choir, and I loved them. I am not bashing those. Then when I entered 7th grade, I continued the easier route and stayed where I was in choir. But then the class that I was in happened to have some students who were not well behaved. The teacher had a frustrating time with classroom control, classroom discipline. So I wanted to get out, and now I knew that my parents were open to purchasing an instrument for me. So I got in a band and chose the clarinet. So that one was kind of luck for me, right? That was luck. But that's kind of a weakness I've had in my personality, is that I have taken no for an answer too many times. And it's cliche to say it, but my life was changed by, honestly, a lot of things, several things over years. But I will look at the book Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which, by the way, is not in my genre, not just because it's sci-fi. I do write some sci-fi. I haven't written any sci-fi novels yet. I've only finished one novel so far, and it's fantasy. But I'm not close to the sci-fi genre. But that book is harsher. It's more graphic. It's violent. It has dirty words. You know, I don't use that in mine. But in Red Rising, which I consumed as the audiobook on my long commute, and I was an active duty Marine at the time, and I listened to it, and the narrator does a fantastic job on that audiobook, and it was riveting to me. And the main character was what I was very much not, and what I still am not. But I needed a dose of that in me, where he was going to do what he was going to do. He was going to reach for the stars, and by golly, he's going to get there. And anybody who says no is going to get pummeled or thrown off to the side. And it really made me think a lot, and think about my attitude and how I was approaching things. Now, fast forward a few years, I went to officer candidate school, and I became a Marine officer. And my journey through that, again, like, my historical me never would have gone to officer candidate school, never would have completed the application, never would have submitted it, never would have gone through the interview, because I had to pass an interview board. They wrote a recommendation. I had to write an essay, and I actually failed once to make it through that process. I failed to be selected for officer candidate school, and I had heard that they respect people who try again. So by the way, if you want to become a Marine officer, don't take that first no for an answer. Not even the second one, if you really, really want it. So yeah, I made it, and I made it through. And some of that was a little bit of fake it till you make it. Like, I saw that other people wanted it, and they acted as if they deserved it, and so I did the same. And even though I had my doubts internally. And now, as I left active duty late last year, I had different options. And the safe option would be to take my cybersecurity certificates that I acquired as a cyberspace officer and go get a high-paying job. But that wasn't the right fit for me or for my family. And so I had written a manuscript, and I never submitted it to any publishers. I didn't query it around. I didn't try to get an agent, because I had studied up and followed some communities on Facebook for a few years and learned all about, I say all because that's how people talk, but not literally all. I still have not learned everything. But learning all about how to publish yourself, publish your own thing. And actually, before I left active duty, early last year, my wife and I filed our LLC. And that's our publishing house. And we gave it a doing business as name, and that's my fantasy label imprint. And I've published one book, and guess what? I'm going to publish another one. Now, I'm very lucky. You have to know your limits. You do have to know your limits. Reach for the stars, but know your limits. Know what is possible. Just like, what's her name? Is it Alyssa? Alyssa Matesic says to face the harsh reality. And for some people, that means that writing and publishing their book is going to take years. For some people, it might mean that you never finish that manuscript, depending what your life is like. I have had times when I have not been able to write. And now I'm very blessed, and I have a runway and some flexibility because my wife and I are we like to own our own house, and the Marine Corps has moved us around, and we have moved ourselves a couple of times as well when we needed to, even though we weren't being transferred. And so we like to own our house, but we're not the greatest at selling our houses. So over the years, we've bought 5 houses, and we've sold 2 of them. We have renters in other houses. Our most recent old house doesn't have renters, and right now we're looking at probably selling it in the next few months because that will buy us more time. And you might think it foolhardy. For some people, it would be not the right thing to do. But it will buy us time. And we are so fortunate to have that, because the time, like I said, I'm not saying no to, I'm not taking no for an answer for self-publishing. And I've been to 3 author signing events, actually 4, 4. Little things, go to the local library, I'm hopping around the local library system, and 3 days last week. One day I had 2 events in one day, and so I've already had 4 events. This week I have 2 events. Next week I have 3 more. And that's all I have scheduled right now. But yeah, I'm out there. My book is out there. It's on Amazon. I have about 50 copies. Yep, 50 copies of my book in a bin, ready to sell. Yes, there's a lot of work ahead, a lot of uphill work. I need to go to events. I need to get known. I need to find my audience, because I don't have a big publisher shoving my book on a shelf in front of everybody. That, I mentioned that, but a lot of authors, they sign and they get a small advance, a few $1,000s, and then the book never earns out, and so that's all they ever see. For me, I don't have any advance to pay off to earn out, but I do have. I actually didn't hire an editor per se, but I paid for software that helps a lot with proofreading. I used beta readers. I used ARC readers as well. I listened to my beta readers, and I read through the whole thing myself out loud to catch things. Even still, one of my ARC readers came back after the book was published and told me about 2 typos. One of them I had already found and fixed myself. The other one was still there. I fixed it. There might be a couple of other typos still. But yeah, there are ways to make sure you have a decent product. And know your limits and know your capabilities. I am aware that I'm pretty good with sentence structure and grammar and spelling and looking at something as a cohesive whole. In fact, I've been accused of reductionism sometimes. That's because I can back up. So I know my strengths, and I know that there are indie authors who make it. They're successful without hiring an editor. Now, if you are not positive that you're one of those people that can do that, please hire an editor. Don't put your work out there naked and raw. Yeah, so I paid for software. I paid for a cover artist because I know my limitations, and I was not going to be able to create the cover for my book on my own. I paid for formatting software. I paid for an advertising class, so I know how to advertise my book, which I am just starting to do now. In the last week, I have started consuming the class online, and I've created a couple of Amazon ads. Anyway, so it is uphill work, but that's who I am. I'm a DIYer wherever I can be. I had to have a car inspected the other day, and they said it has some issues, and I came back and I'm gonna fix a lot of them myself. There's a couple that I'm not ready to do that, and I'm gonna take it to the shop for that. But yeah, that's who I am. At our old house that we're probably gonna sell in a few months, in the next couple of months, I just replaced the kitchen floor. I haven't finished the deck yet, but I'm resurfacing the deck. So yeah, to pass my manuscript around to 100 publishers and then maybe have a control fight is not for me. I'm not saying no. I'm not accepting no. I'm doing it my way, but I am trying to educate myself to do it in such a manner that will be successful. This video is longer than I intended. It's shorter than some of my other episodes, but yeah, we're at almost 22 minutes now. No, wait, sorry. I started recording a few minutes earlier, so it's probably 18 minutes. I don't know, but Yeah, you don't have to take no for an answer. You can publish it yourself. Maybe. Know your strengths. Know your weaknesses. Play to your strengths. Find people who can help you with your weaknesses. And almost you need to know which moon to shoot for, but go ahead and shoot for the moon. And yeah, it's Monday night. I guess you'll get this Tuesday morning. I will still have an episode for you on Thursday, and we'll catch you next time on the Grand Hill Chronicles podcast.